Thanks, Ken. Okay, welcome everybody, and I'll call the meeting to order. Any disclosure, any pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I'm going to change that word. Anyways, oh, I know Jeff has one, I believe.
So item number 5B, MV 2022-03, 2070 Laura Street North in Harrison. And the reason for the declaration is my wife and I own that property.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy one. Okay, thanks, Jeff. Okay, we'll let you know when we get there, and you can just basically, I think you just go off the screen or whatever. And okay, all right. Next up is the minutes of the Town of Minto, February 1st, 2022 regular council meeting. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor McKenzie. Anybody have any questions or anybody opposed? That is carried. Additional items disclosed. I have one. Anybody else? Okay. Moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor Elliott, that the Town of Minto Council convenes in a committee of adjustment. Anybody opposed? That's carried. Okay. First up, we have 5965 Minto Normanby Town Line, Brubaker. I'll chair the public meeting and state the following. Any decisions reached by this committee today cannot be used to set a precedent. Each application considered by the committee is dealt with on its own merits, and no two applications are exactly the same. The public hearing is to consider a minor variance, MV 2022-02, Randy and Jeanette Brubaker. I want to call on the Secretary Treasurer McRobb to state the following. Go ahead, Annalene.
Thank you, Chair Bridge. I'd like to state that the property subject to the proposed minor variance application is legally described as Concession 18, Part Lot 23, with a municipal address of 5965 Minto Normanby Town Line in the Town of Minto. The subject property is approximately 51.43 acres or 20.81 hectares in size. The purpose and effect of the application is to permit the construction of a calf and sheep barn addition with an MDS2 setback of 66.1 meters or 217 feet to the nearest neighboring dwelling and 9.1 meters, 30 feet to the front property line. Whereas section 6.17.2 of the Town of Minto's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 0186 as amendment requires a minimum MDS2 setback of 137.4 meters or 551 feet to the nearest neighbor's dwelling and a front yard setback of 13.7 meters or 45 feet. Additional relief may be considered at this meeting. The notices were mailed to the property owners within 200 feet or 60 meters of the subject property, as well as the applicable agencies on February 2nd, 2022, and posted on the subject property on February 4th, 2022. Reports and comments have been received from our planning technician for the Town of Minto, from the senior planner at Wellington County, and the environmental planning technician for Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. I would advise that no speakers are registered to participate in the public hearing, other than the owners.
Right, thanks, Emily. And I will turn it over to Ashley, our town info planning technician, to do her report. Go ahead, Ashley.
Perfect. So good evening, Chair Bridge and members of the committee. So this minor variance is for Randy and Jeanette Brubaker, who are looking to expand their existing calf and sheep barn, and they require MDS relief to do so. Rather than constructing a new barn, the owners are looking at expanding in the direction farthest away from the neighboring home with a 2,800 square foot addition, which will be 38 by 74 feet. The proposed expansion will be no closer than the existing barn, but due to the increase in capacity, MDS numbers are required to be ran. County staff, town staff, Wellington Source Water Protection, and Saugeen Valley have reviewed the application and do not have concerns with the proposed expansion. Town staff note that a more efficient use of the property is to allow the owner to expand the barn rather than construct a new barn elsewhere on the property on farmable land. No comments or concerns were received and no one was registered to attend the meeting. So town staff are recommending that the committee grant the MDS relief requested, as it is desirable and appropriate for the subject property and in accordance with county and provincial policy.
Thanks, Ashley. And then I'll ask Randy, did you want to speak to this, or is you're on? Maybe not.
Through you, Mayor Bridge, I see that we have someone called user, but we are unable to see if that is actually Randy or not.
Well, I have Randy on my screen down there.
Oh, there he is there. Yep.
Okay. You may not want to speak that, which is fine.
I can just ask him to unmute.
Yep.
But he may have nothing to add.
Yeah, okay. I don't see any other speakers, so I'll ask the committee if they have any questions. Go ahead. Committee, any questions on this? Pretty straightforward. All right. Okay, hearing none. Then I will get you, Annaline, to do the motions, I guess, eh?
Certainly. So I'm going to provide a resolution for the committee to consider upon a resolution being carried or defeated. The notice of decision of the Committee of Adjustments to be signed by all members of the Committee of Adjustment in favor of this decision. If you're okay, I'm going to read the approved one, which is that the Town of Minto Committee of Adjustment approves the application by Randy and Jeanette Brubaker for property legally described as Concession 18, Part Lot 23, with a municipal address of 5965 Minto Normanby Town Line in the Town of Minto, to provide relief from Section 6.17.2 of the Town of Minto's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 01-86, as amended to permit for a reduced MDS2 setback of 66.1 meters, 217 feet to the nearest neighbor's dwelling, and 9.1 meters or 30 feet to the front property line.
I don't even move in a seconder for that. Yes, gonna have a mover, Deputy Mayor Turton, and a seconder, Councillor Gunson. Anybody opposed? That's carried. Okay. That's, I'll just state the following. Anyone wishing to receive a copy of the notice of decision of the Committee of Adjustment in respect to the minor variance application must make a written request to the clerk of the Town of Minto at 5941 Highway 89 Harrison NOG 1ZO, or email at annaline@town.minto.on.ca. I'll declare it officially closed. Okay, thank you. Next up, I have called a public order, public hearing. Oh, it's Jeff off now? Yeah, okay. Public hearing to consider the minor variance application MV 2022-03, Jeff and Sarah Gunson. And I will call on the Secretary Treasurer to state the following information. Go ahead, Annaline.
Thank you. Yep, sorry. I'd like to state that the property subject to the proposed minor variance application is legally described as Part Lot 28 in the former Town of Harrison, Town of Minto, with a municipal address of 27 Aurora Street North in the Town of Minto. The subject property is approximately 0.21 acres or 0.85 hectares in size. The purpose and effect of the application is to provide relief from Section 3.1.1D of the Town of Minto's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 0186 as amended to permit for the construction of a 62.7 meter or 675 foot addition to the existing single detached dwelling, and for a 55.74 meter or 600 foot squared detached garage. Section 3.1.1D states that existing residential buildings and structures are permitted, but does not permit for the expansion of the use. Additional relief may be considered at this meeting. The notices were mailed to the property owners within 200 or 60 meters of the subject property, as well as the applicable agencies, and posted on the subject property on February 3rd, 2022. Reports and comments have been received from our Town of Minto staff, from the Senior Planner for Wellington County, and for the Supervisor and Planning of Regulations from Maitland Valley Conservation Authority. There have been no speakers registered to participate in this public hearing.
Okay, thank you. And I'll turn it over to Ashley to give a report. Go ahead, Ashley.
Thank you. So yeah, this minor variance is to permit for the construction of an addition to an existing home and for the construction of a detached garage. So the property is currently zoned as floodway, which would not permit for either an addition or the garage. However, Maitland Valley completed updated floodplain mapping, and this property is no longer directly impacted by the floodway. So Maitland Valley has been working with the county policy planners to initiate an official plan amendment to update this mapping. However, there are some special policy areas in Harrison that haven't been updated since the late 80s. So they are also working to update that as well. So it's expected to take until fall of 2022. Once that's completed is when the town would be updating the zoning mapping, and it would be proposed to be changed to residential R1C, which is consistent with the neighboring properties. So as the property is technically zoned floodway, despite no longer being considered as such by Maitland Valley, it requires a minor variance for the homeowners to begin construction prior to the official plan amendment and zoning being updated. This is the approach that was recommended by the County Director of Planning and the manager as well. And it's really not a matter of if the property is pulled out of the floodplain, but it's a matter of when. So Maitland Valley Town and County staff have all reviewed the application and were supportive of it. Maitland Valley notes that a permit is still required, as technically the property will still be within the flood fringe, particularly where the garage is proposed to be. But they are satisfied that the current elevation of the property achieves the minimum flood proofing standards, and they note that the standard flood proofing measures should be easily achievable for this proposal. Town staff are recommending that the committee approve the relief with the conditions that the structure is built in accordance with the residential R1C provisions, and that a grading and drainage plan is provided to the town as is a standard recommendation for infill lots.
Through you, Mayor Bridge, you are muted.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. There's no speakers, so I'll turn it over to the committee for questions. Councillor Elliott.
Yeah, when can they start building on this, Ashley?
So
If
this,
it's approved.
if it's approved, there's a 20-day appeal period, and then it would be finalized if no appeals are filed, and they can start building and have the permit issued the day after.
Thanks.
Thanks. Anybody else? No, it's kind of nice that we're catching up, Ashley, and you had a little chat today about that, catching up on some of these things with the flood changing and the different people getting out of the flood zone and whatever. So we got to keep on that. But yeah, no use delaying somebody just because we know what's going to happen, but it's going to take a bit of time. So, okay. Don't hear anybody else. So I would assume, Annalene, we'd probably read the, oh, sorry, Mark, did you have a question?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. It's very unfortunate because of the delay that the Gunsons are going to have to pay a premium for this changeover. Is that correct, Ashley?
Yes.
For the permit? Yeah.
So I know the county and the policy planners have been working quite hard at getting everything updated, but they want to make sure that it's all done correctly, especially seeing as it hasn't been updated in quite some time. The nice thing is that a minor variance is much more affordable and less costly than doing a rezoning. So we found a clause in the zoning bylaw that permits for minor variance as opposed to an entire rezoning, which saves the owners about $8,000 in application fees.
Well, okay, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah,
Thanks
good,
so much for that. Yeah.
Yeah, good point, Councilor McKenzie. But again, we got to make sure we get the final document right, but we don't want to hold people up either. So that's good. Okay, I'd assume, Annalene, we're going to go with the approval on this one. So if you want to read that and then.
Certainly, Chair Bridge, thank you. I'll read the resolution. Upon a resolution being carried or defeated, the notice of decision of the Committee of Adjustment is to be signed by all members of the Committee of Adjustment in favor of the decision. The motion would be that the Town of Minto Committee of Adjustment approves the application by Jeff and Sarah Gunson for property legally described as Part Lot 28 in the former town of Harriston, with a municipal address of 27 Elora Street, North Harriston, in the town of Minto, to provide relief from Section 3.1.1D of the Town of Minto's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 01-86 as amended to permit for the construction of an addition to the existing single detached dwelling and a detached garage.
Thank
We
you.
would require a mover and a seconder.
Yes, a mover and a seconder for that, please. Deputy Mayor Turton and Councillor Dirksen. Anybody opposed? That is carried. Okay, and anyone wishing to receive a copy of the notice of decision of the Committee of Adjustment in respect to the minor variance application must make a written request to the clerk of the town of Minto at 5941 Highway 89 Harrison OG 1ZO, or email at annalene@town.minto.on.ca. And I'll declare that closed and you can get Jeff back. Thank you. There he is. Get your hammer out, Jeff. Okay, next up, we have another public meeting, and this is on the Lions Medical Center. The public hearing is to consider minor variance application MV 2022-04, the Minto Municipal Service Corporation. I'll turn it over to Annalene for the details.
Thank you, Chair Bridge. I would like to state that the property subject to the proposed minor variance application is legally described as Lot 7 to 29, northeast south side of John Street in the former town of Harriston, in the town of Minto, with a municipal address of 16 John Street North, in the town of Minto. The subject property is approximately 0.65 acres or 0.26 hectare. The purpose of the effect of the application is to provide relief for the subject property to permit for a 1,864 square foot addition of the existing legal non-conforming Lions Medical Center. This addition is proposed to be utilized by healthcare professionals to serve the local community. The addition requires relief under subsection 45.1 and subsection 45.2A I of the Planning Act RSO 1990. Under subsection 45(1) of the Planning Act RSO 1990, relief is being requested from section 10.2.5 of the Town of Minto's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 0186 as amended to permit a reduced exterior side yard setback of 3.35 meters or 11 feet. Under subsection 45(2)AI of the Planning Act RSO 1990, relief is being requested to permit an expansion of the legal non-conforming use to facilitate the addition in residential R1B zone. Additional relief may be considered at this meeting. The notices were mailed to property owners within 200 feet or 60 meters of the subject property, as well as the applicable agencies, and posted on the property on February 4th, 2022. Reports and comments have been received from our planning technician from the town of Minto, the senior planner from the Wellington County, as well as the supervisor of planning and regulations for Maitland Valley Conservation Authority. I will advise that no speakers are registered to participate in this public hearing.
Thank you. And I'll turn it over to Ashley for her report. Go ahead, Ashley.
Perfect, thank you. So the committee may recall a previous minor variance coming forward for an 1,100 square foot expansion with a reduced side yard setback of 17 feet. That being said, the Minto Municipal Services Corporation has accepted a bid from a local construction company with an engineer with experience in medical buildings to complete this work. And based on their recommendation and past experience, they're suggesting more space be added to the addition to make it more accessible to all. So this includes wider hallways, larger washrooms, and larger turning circles. The addition will still be 1 story, and it's generally maintaining the same layout, but this additional space for accessibility will bring the building size up to approximately 1,800 square feet and require a reduced side yard setback of 11 feet. So we do want to ensure that all members of the community will be able to and have access to this building, particularly that it's going to be for doctors' offices. So that's why we're taking the advice of the engineer to increase the square footage and to make it more accessible for everyone. County staff, Wellington Source Water Protection, Maitland Valley and town staff are supportive of the minor variance. Maitland Valley is still requesting the emergency walkway that goes up by the side of the park there, which we will include. And town and county staff are satisfied that this is minor, desirable, and maintains the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw. So we are recommending it be approved.
Thank you, Ashley. And I'll turn it over to the committee for any questions. Deputy Mayor Turton, go ahead.
Mayor Bridge, Ashley, did you say that there's a sidewalk?
Sorry.
On the east side beside lot 40?
So they're proposing to put, or Maitland Valley would like a walkway to come up from where the parking lot is, kind of between the park and Mike McIsaac's house, up to the sidewalk there, so that if in case of an emergency, the access is needed, that it's there. And then our fire department is aware of that and they don't have concerns with that. So.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Dolly. I mean, you can never build something like this big enough. And for us to go from 1150 to 1864 and still be under budget, that's really great. So,
Yeah, good news. Good news.
yeah.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else got any questions? If not, I would say we go with the positive one there, Annalene, and then we'll go forward.
Okay, thank you, Chair Bridge. Upon a resolution being carried or defeated, the notice of decision of the Committee of Adjustment is to be signed by all members of the Committee of Adjustment in favor of the decision. It would be, motion would be that the Town of Minto Committee of Adjustment approves the application by the Minto Municipal Services Corporation for a property legally described as lot 27 to 29 northeast side John Street in the former town of Harriston with a municipal address of 16 John Street North in the town of Minto to provide relief from section 10.2.5 of the town of Minto's comprehensive zoning bylaw 0186 as amended under subsection 45(1) of the Planning Act to permit a reduced exterior side yard setback of 3.35 meters or 11 feet, and from subsection 45(2)(a)(1) of the Planning Act to permit an expansion of the legal non-conforming use.
Okay, moving a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Deputy Mayor Turton. Anybody opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Anyone wishing to receive a copy of the notice of decision of the Committee of Adjustment in respect to the minor variance application must make a written request to the clerk of the town of Minto at 5941 Highway 89, Harrison OG 1ZO, or email at annalene@town.minto.on.ca. I'll officially close that. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Gunson, second by Deputy Mayor Turton. The Town of Minto Committee of Adjustment convenes into the Committee of the Whole. All in favor? I'm sorry, anybody opposed? Sorry, like I'm messing you up now, I'm messing you up. Carried. No public meeting, no delegations. Correspondence for information requiring direction of council. We didn't have any of that. Reports of committee. Guess we don't have a reports of committee either, do we? Okay. Next up is moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Gudson. The Council of the Town of Minto recommends the County of Wellington Land Division Committee approval consent application B122 and B222 Robinson for land legally described as concession 1, lot 76 and part lot 77 with municipal address of 401 Jane Street, Palmerston, the town of Minto, and that the following conditions be considered. And Ashley has to present that to us, but I just thought I read it out already. Okay, go ahead, Ashley.
So this is my last one for the night. So the severance is
You're
for
getting your money. You're earning your money.
the severance is for 401 Jane Street in Palmerston. So the proposal is to sever off 2 vacant urban lots for residential use and to retain a vacant residential lot that will be severed in the near future once Elgin Street is developed and constructed. The property is already designated as residential in the county official plan, and it will be rezoned as residential R2 with a hold once the zoning bylaw amendment is finalized on February 17th, pending no appeals are filed. The property does have a hold that will remain in place with this new R2 zoning until the owner and developer applies to remove it, primarily once stormwater management issues are addressed to both the town and Maitland Valley's satisfaction. For the hold to be removed, it will have to come back before council for their consideration once it's at a point where town staff would recommend it being removed, and that is included as a condition of the consent. Both lots are proposed to meet the zoning provisions of the R2 zone. And you may note that the severance will create a temporarily landlocked retained parcel that once Elgin Street is constructed, it will have legal frontage. So we have put a condition in place that the developer enter into an agreement with the town to extend Elgin Street and servicing to that property as a condition of this severance. The developer has been working closely with the town and Triton over the past year for the design and construction of Elgin Street, and that will be at their sole cost to construct. Other standard conditions include access, servicing, financial, and parkland contributions, and town staff are recommending that council recommend the Land Division Committee approve the severance with the conditions we have outlined in the report.
I read the recommendation, but I didn't do the conditions. So
There's quite a few. They're all pretty standard, and we just wanted to make sure that our bases are all covered and that Elgin Street does go ahead and get developed without creating a permanently landlocked parcel. So
I'll open up for questions now, please. Any questions? Councillor Elliott.
Once again, when can they start building?
so this
When do
one,
you
they'll have to,
Sorry.
no, that's okay. They'll have to clear their severance conditions. So the onus is kind of on the developer on how quickly they want to get that done. That being said, this developer has the subdivision in Harrison here and the rail land as well that they are prioritizing, but they still are working on Elgin Street. So I believe they're coming down home stretch. They didn't anticipate that Elgin Street would take longer than the year, but an exact timeline we don't have. Kind of depends on the subdivision.
It's probably not going to be for a year before they start developing, you think?
I don't anticipate, but they haven't committed anything set in stone yet.
Thanks.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Turton, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. Ashley, 209, 213, 217 are landlocked as well.
On Elgin Street there?
Mhm.
Yes. So it's owned by the same developer, and they're also dependent on Elgin Street being constructed. And then the larger retained parcel, they're proposing to sever those as well, which you'll see come before you at a later date when they get a little bit closer to the construction process of the road.
Okay. Any other questions? Good. Anybody opposed? That's carried. Okay. And
Thank
I'll turn it over. Thanks, Ashley. I'll turn it over to Jean. Councillor Anderson. Go ahead, Councillor Anderson. She's spending our money. Oh, you're muted, Jean. Sorry, you're muted. There you go.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you. And I'm going to pass this over to Chief Harrow to discuss the proposed purchase of 2 vehicles for our fire services. And Chris will take it away.
Thank you, Councillor Aaronson. I was hoping you would just do the report and I could just answer
Well, I
questions.
can do
afterwards.
that too
No,
if you like, but it might not be as detailed.
No, it's all good. Yeah, you have the report in front of you. This is the tanker truck that was approved in the 2022 capital budget. Unfortunately, as like everything I think that we're going to see in the next little while from indications I've been getting, we've hit supply issues and just getting stuff on the costs that we were quoted or looked into in 6 months to a year ago. So everything that we've looked at and that is coming back a little bit more. The happy part of this was we got 6 bids put in, which is more than we've gotten in the past. We did just ask for a stock or demo truck. This isn't a truck that we're creating from the ground up. This is just show us what you got and we'd like to purchase it. So the lowest bid of them was from Safe Tech, which is a truck that's built by Metal Fab. That's in New Brunswick. We've had a truck built from them before and they're a very, very good builder and totally confident in that. And yeah, it's going to service our needs. The one that's replacing is a 1989. So we are running our tanker trucks to 30 years or more, which is usually not heard of in the fire service and that, but I don't think moving forward, a lot of them are going to have a choice in the future, but that's for other departments to worry about. So that's our report and hopefully we can get moving with this purchase.
Are there any questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor Turton.
Yes, thank you. So thank you, Chair Anderson, Chief Harrow. Just looking, the Safe Tech vehicle, it's a 21 International.
Correct. Yes.
And the other ones are 22s and even the top one's a 23.
Correct.
Does that mean anything? I mean, a new truck is a new truck.
Correct. Yeah, I've talked to the great thing of having a volunteer department is you have a lot of tradespeople on the department. So we've talked to a lot of truck guys and that's not an issue. I think that's one of the reasons why this one was so much cheaper than the other ones, because they have a supply of 2021 chassis still that they're able to build on, where the other ones don't. And that's where the cost has gone up because of the chassis for trucks have gone up so much. So that's why I think we're lucky in a way that we've got this 2021, which again, for us going 25, 30 years of the truck is not going to be an issue, whether it's 21 or 22. So I thought we were pretty fortunate with that.
Great, thank you.
So I have a question. Do I get to ask a question of myself? What happens to the old truck? I understand this one's going to Palmerston. What do we do with the tanker that's being replaced in Palmerston? Does it get sold or traded or?
Correct. So we put it on, traditionally done is put it on the Gov Deals website.
Okay.
Public Works has done that with their old trucks. And I am happy to report the last one that we bought last year, we put on and we got over $18,000 for our used one, which is unheard of. We usually would get around $2,000 to $5,000. But again, because the markets, that's where our benefit is, the market has increased, that we can hopefully get more for our used one on the website that way. So yeah, so that would then get put back into reserves to offset this truck.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
I just assumed it was something like that, but thought better to clarify it as people scrutinize what we do with these things.
Yep, absolutely.
Any other questions? Oh, just a minute. I just lost my little thing. In that case, I will read the recommendation, which was moved by Councillor Elliott and seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that Council of the Town of Minto receives the report Fire 2022-01 regarding the tanker request for proposal award and budget amendment, that the town's 2022 capital budget be amended by $50,000 to include additional funding for the tanker request for proposal award with funding provided from reserve fund, and that the town of Minto award request for proposal Fire 2022-01 to Safe Tech emergency vehicles to a maximum cost of $390,000 excluding HST. Anybody opposed to that? Seeing none, that motion is passed. And we'll move on to the next report. Little smaller ticket item.
Yes. This is the pickup truck that we're just adding to the fleet. And we went out for tender. We thought I should say it was a good idea, but we partnered with Center Wellington, who was ordering 3 vehicles, and Wellington North that was also getting a pickup truck so that we could buy in bulk. And again, we were caught up in the lack of supply. There's only 3 dealerships that actually bid. And Leslie Motors actually only bid on the Wellington North and Minto trucks because they didn't know how many they could get. So it's just a side note, the purchasing person at Center Wellington that did this proposal and put the RFP out for us that we worked with said that the one dealer she was talking about, he canceled 60 contracts last year on orders because they couldn't fill them, and the price has gone up so much that they just had to cancel the contracts because they couldn't fill them. So it's just as everybody knows, it's just a crazy market out there right now. So but we got a bid. It's in on budget, so that's the proposed rate for now.
Are there any questions?
Through you, Chair Anderson, just to comment, I know what you're saying, Chief Harrow. West Ontario Power has been trying to get some new pickup trucks, and they can't even, and their bigger trucks, they can't get anything. So, and there's no fleet discounts anymore because when you don't have any supply, it doesn't matter what your discount is, you can't get them. So you're lucky to get this truck, to be honest with you. So I guess hopefully the good old days will come back, Councillor Anderson, someday, and we'll be able to get a lower one sometime.
I wouldn't hold my breath, but.
No.
So any other questions? Yes, Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. I was just wondering, is this a replacement truck for your half ton, or is this an additional truck?
This is an additional truck. I've been driving the one that's been sitting in the Palmerston station that pulls the trailer and in response with the combined space team and that. I've been using that one. But as we've grown and as we so this is an additional one for me to drive. This is the one that we're replacing the pickup truck with is from last year. We are taking one of the public works trucks to replace the pickup truck that's in the Palmerston station. That was last year, but again, supply issues. Public Works still is waiting on their new one to arrive that they ordered last July. And so once they get theirs in, then we will take their old one into the fire hall to pull the trailer and use for our confined space team. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions or comments? Seeing none, I will read the recommendation moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, seconded by Councillor McKenzie, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives the report Fire 2022-02 regarding the fire pickup truck award, and that the Town of Minto award request for tender RFT number 04-22 to Leslie Motors Limited for the total price of $46,709, excluding HST. Anybody opposed to that? Seeing none, that motion is passed as well, and I will turn the chair back over to Mayor Bridge.
Thanks, Councillor Anderson. I'll turn it over to Deputy Mayor Turton to do the Treasury one. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. Welcome, Treasurer Duff. This item here this evening is authorization to sign the Municipal Modernization Program intake. Gord, do you want to go ahead with this?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Turton. Just a bit of a good news report. This is for an application, actually a couple of applications that we put in last fall. And we got the good news actually on the day of the last council meeting, so it was too late to get to the agenda. And it's required back by March 1st. So that's why it's on this meeting, even though this is mostly a planning meeting. So kind of an interesting one. This is the third intake of the Municipal Modernization Program. So the first one, we got a predetermined amount of money in 2019, not all spent, but all allocated. For the second round, I think you had to prove a real need that you've spent all the first round, and it was a tight turnaround. So we didn't put in for that one. And then this final round came through, and it's more again proactive approach, I guess, finding better ways and processes of going forward. So there's two streams. One is what they call a third-party review. So that's basically having a consultant look at your systems or whatever you put in for. And we chose a review of our financial and enterprise software and a systems review. And then the other is the implementation. So that's more, we've decided already what we want to do, and this is money to actually do it. So we have some enhancements to the cloud permit, building permit software, which is already in use, and I think the building department's finding it very useful. Document management system. So this is something our clerk has been looking into for a long time, and this will enable her to go forward with that. And also, I don't think Matt's here tonight, but the Community Services Department has recently changed some of their software, and it's going to bring a little bit more flexibility for the public to make bookings and handle them in our system a bit better. So it's a recreation scheduling software. The interesting thing about this grant is when we were to put in a budget, they requested a range. So for a lower end to a higher end. And it's kind of interesting that the funding came through mostly at the high end of these ranges. So certainly not the midpoint. And it's a 75% grant, so we'll have to come up with the remaining items. So I've got one report, but they did send through a separate transfer payment agreement for each stream, the third party and the implementation. And it's attached to the agenda too. So certainly take any questions or anything.
Thank you, Gord. Questions for our treasurer? Go ahead, Mayor Bridge.
Oh, yeah, there is the amount in there, Gord, isn't there? 100.
Yeah, so 104,559 for the one and 71,232 for the other. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, we've got a recommendation moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor Gunson, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives the report FIN 2022-004 regarding municipal modernization intake 3 transfer payment agreements, and considers the related bylaws in regular session authorizing the mayor and the clerk to sign the transfer payment agreements. Anyone opposed to this? Seeing none, that's carried, and I'll pass the chair back to our mayor. Thank you very much, Gord.
Deputy Mayor Turton, and I've got one last item actually on this, and it's the official plan. And I see we have Bill Smith with us. Bill White. Sorry, Bill.
I don't know how to take that one.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how to take it. I don't know what my brain was. But Derek's going to lead it, and then Bill's here from still in Texas. Are you, Bill?
I am.
Yeah, still in Texas. Living the good life. Anyways, I don't know why you don't want to be here in the winter.
I don't miss that part.
Yeah. Anyways, go ahead, Derek, and then we'll roll this through with Bill.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As you may recall, as we've gone through this long and windy road of the municipal comprehensive review, the last update we brought you was a concern that staff had around the removal of policy 6.4.7 out of the county's official plan. So by way of update, we have had conversations with the county on this particular item, and you should have attached your report the recent response to our concerns and council's concerns around that particular removal of that policy, or what we describe as the ability to have flexibility in the rural hamlets as we start to go through this unprecedented time of growth and being to have flexibility within there. So you can see by the response from county staff that they may not agree with us completely on our request for them not to remove that policy from the official plan. So by way of update, we're describing that to you tonight. And because Bill's all the way from Texas, I got to let him say something. So I'll let Bill chime in here now and take over.
Well, thank you. I just, I don't think I could add too much to what the CAO said there. I think there's a little bit of movement. I think it was important, and I'm glad that Derek agreed to put this on, that council know that there was some, I don't want to call it resistance, some discussion around the town's comments on this item and some of the other items that are laid out in the report. But there's also some movement. So the county went into their open house and public meeting on that policy, and they did hear some minor opposition from other parties to that section coming out. I'm not sure that all the rural municipalities really understand completely what that might mean if that were to come out of there. So I was happy to see, I think, that the county is willing to look at retaining it with some policy clarifications, but that remains to be seen. So I think it's important that we continue to monitor with you and participate in the technical committee. And I'm glad that Derek allows me to help him out with that work. And it's a pleasure to do that sort of thing. So if there's any questions or if you want to get into the detail, really the main reason for the report was because this was going to open house and public meeting, and the county was good enough to respond to the town on the comments, and we wanted you to see where that was. I don't know if that helps, but yeah.
Deputy Mayor Turton.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. Bill, welcome. Bill, I just wondered, you did say that other municipalities up this way are showing some resistance to this change as well?
There's some uptake in it, more in Puslynch, but there really isn't much elsewhere that I see. And, you know, I'm kind of surprised at that. I guess we feel like the ability to round out an infill, even though the Minto's getting the bulk of its growth to the urban areas, and that's important, that there will be other opportunities, and we need that flexibility. And
yeah,
so that's what the comments have been all along, I think, on behalf of the town, was to keep things flexible and open rather than sort of cutting off avenues where, you know, good things can happen.
Thank you.
Councillor Elliott, go ahead.
So why do you think the county is kind of resisting our proposal? It makes a lot of sense to us that we need that, right?
Right. But what they said in the meeting, and Derek could correct me if I'm wrong, is that they had direction from the province that that section was of concern to the province, but that the province seemed to be primarily concerned with infilling and rounding out in prime agricultural areas. So that's where the flexibility may be, and that they might remove that flexibility in prime agricultural areas, but still allow it in secondary agricultural areas. And I think if that were to be the case and that section remained in there with some qualifications on it, I think that would be good for the town and probably give as much as flexibility as we could hope for in the future. But the next step, where they're redoing the agricultural mapping, we want to carefully watch that too. So, you know, it's not a roundabout way of totally shutting down any kind of growth in the rural Minto. So we mentioned that part in the report too, that we don't want to see the secondary agricultural lands all of a sudden all become primary. And so we have to watch that mapping part too.
Great.
Thanks.
Yeah, and great work, both Derek and Bill, on this, because it's funny you say they tell us the province is sort of against some of this bill, but when I talk to the provincial politicians, there's not, it's a disconnect between the politicians and staffing, I believe, in my own personal opinion, on some of this. So I think we have to keep where I hear from Mr. Clark and some other ministers that, you know, we got to get this housing issue doing, we got to do this, we got to do that. And at the end of the day, you know, we have some loose, and I'm not one for taking away primary agriculture, don't get me wrong, but we have situations where you pointed out to them that are just infill, really. Like I'm thinking like the little hamlet of Tivadale and some other places that we need to keep some opportunities there. And I don't want the county to have a tougher situation, a tougher program than the province. It doesn't make any sense to me. So is that where we're at, Derek? And we just keep pushing the envelope and maybe reach out if you can, Derek, to a couple of the other CEOs, or I can reach out to the mayors and say, make sure that they understand that at some of our other rural townships, because if it's only that's pushing back, I'd be surprised that they don't understand it then.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we meet regularly, the county CEOs, and you know, like the plan itself, every community has its nuances and the hill that they want to, you know, sort of pursue. Let's put it that way. You know, and as Mr. White has indicated, I think Minto has done fairly well in this exercise, really. So you know. We'll continue to you know, advocate for Minto as we do, and that won't change at all. And Mr. White's right. The next thing, well, there's two things really we want to pay attention to. One is the mapping, and the other would be when, you know, as I'd like to say, is when the rubber hits the road and we start identifying lands. That's really the two exercises we really want to pay attention to. So,
well. Keep up, and I know we've done our homework, and that's a big difference too. So thanks for all the work that you've done in that area. Anybody else? Okay. Moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor McKenzie. The Council of the Town of Minto receives the February 4th, 2022 letter of Sarah Williams. I always get her name wrong. Of the Wellington County Planning Department, and that the February 15th, 2022 update report 4 from the CEO and Triton Engineering at the council encouraged the county to retain section 6.47 of the official plan with clarifying policies, and the status of the official plan amendment 119 be monitored through the public meeting and decision-making stage, and the staff report back to the council to progress on progress made in response to the town's comments. Anybody opposed to that? That's carried. And Bill, say hello to Terry Force.
I will do so.
Yeah.
It's nice seeing you all again.
Nice seeing you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bill.
Bye.
Other business is disclosed. I just got one item. A couple items, I guess. One was I think Belinda just sent out a little notification with a link to the workforce strategy plan, got passed by the Western Wardens on Friday. If you get a chance, it's a big document, but you can actually peel down to the Wellington County portion and pull out that. And I might get, what I might do is get Belinda to actually print you off the executive copy so you have it, because there's a lot of really good tools in there, and we're probably going to be discussing some of those as we go forward in attainable housing, other social programs that we might be able to do to help our workforce strategy concerns. So that just got approved. There was a press release too that I'm pleased to announce that Kate Burns Gallagher, who was our economic development manager for the Western Wardens, and that position contract was up, and she went back to Elgin, but she's now come back to us as the executive director for that organization. And it's got a lot of traction in the Western Wardens now with the province. We get a lot of good one-on-ones with people, and we could put our case for rural Ontario up in front of both the province and the feds. So I'm really pleased that we have a good organization moving forward there. And then just one other thing I wanted to mention. I just want to thank everybody for all their hard work. I don't think the pandemic's over yet. But at the same token, we're maybe seeing another crest of a wave or depression of a wave. But certainly through all the efforts of people really trying to get vaccinated, and we have a good number of people vaccinated, we haven't got enough people, and I don't believe boosted yet. So we're really working on booster clinics. And I think we want to stay out of this and be opened up like we're going to be opening up. We can't forget that vaccinations got us there. I think a little bit. So, and some of our other things that we did. So I want to make sure everybody's excited about the fact we're opening up. Try to push the vaccinations if you can. If you hear people that haven't, I'm not going to bother getting my booster or whatever, I do believe that will help them if they do get their booster, and certainly children if they can get their shots. Because going forward, there might be another kind of variant or something might come up, and any protection we've got is very important. So That's what I have for that. And I'm kind of happy that we're looking like we're going to have some activities and we're going to do some stuff going forward. And it's been a hard battle, but that's what I have for that. Anybody else got anything? Okay. What else we got left? Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Anderson. Oh, sorry. Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councillor Gunson. The Council of the Town of Minto ratifies the motion made in the Committee of the Whole. Anybody opposed? That's carried. Moved by Councillor
Through
Elliott.
you,
second-
Mayor Bridge.
Sorry.
Sorry, I think we just missed moving into regular council.
Oh.
Moved by Councillor
Oh.
Dirksen, second by.
Oh, sorry. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor Elliott. That the Committee of the Whole convenes the regular council. I was looking for that. Thank you, Annalene.
Thank you.
Anybody opposed to that? No. Do we want to do the other one again, or are we all right?
I think we're fine. Just if you just ask if there's any notice of motion.
Oh, yes, notice of motion. Any notice of motion? Okay, good. Into bylaws then. Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Anderson, the bylaw 2022-16 to authorize the execution of the transfer payment agreement for the Municipal Modernization Program implementation stream. You read first, second, and third time and passed on council seal of the corporation. Anybody opposed? That is carried. Moved by Councillor Gunson, second by Deputy Mayor Turton, the bylaw number 2022-17 to authorize the execution of a transfer payment agreement for the Municipal Modernization Program third party review stream be read first, second, and third time and passed on council seal of the corporation. Anybody opposed? That is carried. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Councillor Dirksen, that the bylaw number 2022-18 to confirm the actions of Council of the Corporation of Town of Minto respecting a meeting held February 15th, 2022 be read first, second, and third time and passed on council and seal of the corporation. Anybody opposed? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor Elliott. The Council of the Town of Minto adjourns to meet again at the call of the mayor. Anybody opposed? Great. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you in a little while. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.